Control your mouth, mood, money and mind. Stoicism for mental mastery and self-discipline. Imagine for a moment that your entire future depends on just 4 things. Not your education. Not your talent. Not your luck. Not even the opportunities that come your way. Just 4 things. Your mouth. Your mood. Your money. And your mind. Most people spend their lives trying to control the world around them. They try to control other people's opinions, their circumstances, their relationships, and even events that are completely beyond their power. Yet the Stoics taught a different lesson. They taught that a person becomes powerful not by controlling the outside world, but by mastering the world within. And that mastery begins with these 4 pillars. Because if you cannot control your mouth, your words will destroy opportunities. If you cannot control your mood, your emotions will control your decisions. If you cannot control your money, your desires will keep you poor. And if you cannot control your mind, every challenge will defeat you before the battle even begins. The tragedy is that most people never realize this until it is too late. They blame society. They blame bad luck. They blame circumstances. But the real battle was always happening inside them. Today, we are going deep into the ancient wisdom of Stoicism to discover how mastering these 4 areas can transform your entire life. And before we begin, subscribe to Focus and Conquer and join thousands of people who are choosing discipline over distraction, wisdom over weakness, and mastery over mediocrity. Because what you're about to hear could change the way you think forever. The first thing the Stoics wanted us to understand is that words have consequences. Most people speak first and think later. They react. They argue. They gossip. They complain. They defend themselves. They try to win every conversation. And in doing so, they lose something far more valuable than the argument itself. They lose respect. There is an old story about a young merchant who desperately wanted to become successful. He believed success came from speaking loudly and making people notice him. Whenever he entered a room, he dominated every conversation. He interrupted others. He always had an opinion. He always had something to say. At first, people listened. But over time, they began avoiding him. His business declined. His friendships weakened. And opportunities seemed to disappear. Confused, he visited an old philosopher. The philosopher listened quietly as the young merchant complained about his problems. When the merchant finally stopped talking, the philosopher smiled. "You have 2 ears and 1 mouth," he said. "The gods already showed you how often you should listen." The merchant laughed. But those words haunted him. For the next year, he practiced listening more than speaking. Something unexpected happened. People trusted him more. They respected him more. They revealed opportunities they would never have shared before. His life changed not because he learned to speak better. It changed because he learned when not to speak. This is one of the greatest Stoic lessons. Silence is often more powerful than speech. A person who controls their mouth controls their reputation. And a person who controls their reputation controls many doors in life. Think about the last argument you regret. Think about the last harsh comment you wish you could take back. Think about the relationship damaged by words spoken in anger. The problem wasn't lack of intelligence. The problem was lack of control. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself that many conflicts can be avoided simply by refusing to react immediately. The strongest response is often no response. The strongest comeback is often silence. The strongest person in the room is often the one who feels no need to prove it. Imagine how much different your life would be if every word that left your mouth passed through a filter. A filter that asked, "Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it useful?" Most conversations would become shorter. But your influence would become greater. Because people remember meaningful words. They forget noise. And in today's world, noise is everywhere. The person who masters silence gains a rare advantage. But controlling your mouth is only the beginning. Because even if your words are disciplined, your emotions can still destroy everything. And that brings us to the second battlefield. Your mood. The battlefield where countless dreams have been lost. The battlefield where emotions become enemies. And the battlefield where true Stoic strength begins. But controlling your mouth is only the beginning. Because even if your words are disciplined, your emotions can still destroy everything. This is where most people lose the battle. Not because they lack intelligence. Not because they lack talent. But because they become prisoners of their moods. One bad morning ruins an entire day. One criticism destroys confidence. One setback causes them to quit. One disappointment makes them abandon their purpose. The Stoics understood something that most people never learn. Your mood is temporary. But the decisions you make while trapped inside that mood can create permanent consequences. There is an old story about a farmer whose horse ran away. When the neighbors heard the news, they rushed to his house. "How terrible!" they said. "What bad luck!" The farmer simply replied, "Maybe." A few days later, the horse returned. And it brought several wild horses with it. The neighbors celebrated. "What amazing luck!" Again, the farmer replied, "Maybe." Soon after, the farmer's son was thrown from one of the wild horses and broke his leg. The neighbors returned. "What terrible luck!" The farmer answered, "Maybe." A few weeks later, soldiers arrived to recruit every healthy young man for a brutal war. Because of his broken leg, the farmer's son was spared. The neighbors were shocked. What first appeared to be bad fortune had become a blessing. The Stoics loved stories like this because they reveal a powerful truth. Events themselves are neutral. It is our judgment of them that creates suffering. Most people react emotionally before they understand what is actually happening. The Stoic learns patience. The Stoic waits. The Stoic understands that today's disappointment may become tomorrow's opportunity. And that perspective creates emotional freedom. Imagine two people losing the same job. One sees disaster. The other sees possibility. One falls into despair. The other begins searching for a better path. The event is identical. The response is different. And the response determines the outcome. This is why your mood should never become your master. Because moods change. They rise. They fall. They come and go like weather. Yet many people build their entire lives around temporary emotions. They work only when motivated. They exercise only when inspired. They pursue goals only when they feel confident. The problem is simple. Motivation is unreliable. Discipline is dependable. Marcus Aurelius did not wake up every day feeling inspired. No great leader does. No successful entrepreneur does. No athlete does. What separates them from everyone else is not constant motivation. It is the ability to act despite their emotions. The ability to move forward even when they don't feel like it. The ability to remain steady when others become unstable. There was once a young stone cutter who dreamed of building a magnificent temple. Every morning he walked to the construction site carrying heavy tools. Some days he felt energized. Some days he felt exhausted. Some days he doubted himself completely. Years passed. The temple slowly took shape. One visitor asked him a question. "How do you stay motivated after all these years?" The stone cutter smiled. "I don't." The visitor looked confused. The stone cutter continued. "If I waited for motivation, these stones would still be lying on the ground." That answer contains a lesson powerful enough to transform your life. Success is not built during moments of inspiration. Success is built during moments when inspiration is absent. When nobody is watching. When your mood says quit. When your emotions say stop. When your comfort demands surrender. And yet you continue. This is emotional mastery. This is Stoicism. The Stoics never said you shouldn't feel emotions. They simply believed emotions should not control your actions. You can feel fear and still move forward. You can feel sadness and still fulfill your responsibilities. You can feel uncertainty and still make progress. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action despite fear. Strength is not the absence of emotion. It is control despite emotion. Think about how many dreams have died because someone obeyed a temporary feeling. A temporary feeling of laziness. A temporary feeling of insecurity. A temporary feeling of doubt. The mood passed. But the opportunity never returned. This is why emotional discipline is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. Because life will test you. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. Unexpected challenges will appear. But if your mood controls your actions, your future will always remain unstable. The Stoic remains calm during chaos because they understand something powerful. No storm lasts forever. No pain lasts forever. No hardship lasts forever. Everything changes. Everything passes. And those who remain steady during difficult times eventually gain advantages that emotional people never achieve. But there is another enemy waiting for those who master their emotions. An enemy that silently destroys freedom. An enemy that keeps people trapped for decades. An enemy disguised as pleasure. That enemy is the misuse of money. And what you're about to learn may completely change the way you think about wealth, success, and freedom forever. Most people believe money is the goal. The Stoics believed money is a tool. There is a difference. A massive difference. One creates freedom. The other creates slavery. Look around the world today. Millions of people spend money they haven't earned to impress people they don't even like. They chase bigger houses, bigger cars, more expensive clothes, more status, more validation. Yet despite having more than previous generations ever imagined, many remain anxious, stressed, and financially trapped. Why? Because wealth without wisdom becomes another form of poverty. The Stoics understood that true wealth is not measured by what you own. It is measured by how little you need. This idea sounds strange in a culture obsessed with accumulation. But consider this. A man earning millions who constantly fears losing his lifestyle may be poorer than a modest worker who sleeps peacefully every night. One possesses money. The other possesses freedom. And freedom is the ultimate currency. There is a story about a wealthy merchant who spent decades building his fortune. Every day he worked longer. Every year he expanded his business. Every success made him want more. His wealth grew. His houses multiplied. His possessions filled entire warehouses. Yet strangely, his happiness never increased. One evening he met an old fisherman sitting beside a quiet river. The fisherman had little. A small boat. Simple clothes. A modest home. But he seemed genuinely content. The merchant could not understand it. "Why aren't you working harder?" he asked. The fisherman smiled. "For what?" "So you can make more money. And then? Then you can buy a bigger boat. And then? Then you can build a fishing company. And then? Then you can become wealthy. And then?" The merchant paused. "Then you can relax and enjoy your life." The fisherman laughed softly. "But that's exactly what I'm doing now." The merchant stood silent. Because for the first time, he realized he had spent years chasing a destination he never defined. Many people do the same. They pursue money without understanding why. They sacrifice their health, their relationships, their peace of mind, all in pursuit of a future they assume will finally make them happy. The Stoics challenge us to ask a difficult question. How much is enough? Because if you cannot answer that question, no amount will ever satisfy you. Desire expands endlessly. Every new achievement creates another target. Every milestone creates another mountain. The person who never learns contentment becomes trapped in an endless race. And the finish line keeps moving. This does not mean Stoicism opposes wealth. Far from it. Many Stoics were successful leaders, businessmen, and influential figures. They simply refused to become servants of their possessions. They owned wealth. They did not allow wealth to own them. There is another lesson about money that few people learn early enough. Every purchase costs more than money. It costs time. Imagine holding a luxury watch. Most people see a price tag. The Stoic sees something else. Hours. Days. Weeks. months of life exchanged for that object. Because money is stored time, stored effort, stored energy. When you waste money carelessly, you are often wasting portions of your life. This realization changes everything. Suddenly impulse purchases become less attractive. Suddenly unnecessary expenses become easier to resist. Suddenly discipline begins to grow. And discipline creates freedom. There was once a young man who received a significant inheritance. His friends celebrated. They told him his problems were over. They encouraged him to enjoy himself. And for a while, he did. Expensive parties. Luxury vacations. Constant entertainment. Years passed. The inheritance vanished. The friends disappeared. The lifestyle collapsed. And he found himself worse off than before. Not because he lacked money, but because he lacked wisdom. Money magnifies character. If you are disciplined, money strengthens your discipline. If you are reckless, money strengthens your recklessness. That is why financial mastery begins long before wealth arrives. It begins with habits. Small habits. Daily habits. The habit of saving instead of spending. The habit of investing instead of consuming. The habit of planning instead of reacting. The habit of building instead of showing off. These habits seem insignificant at first. But over time they become powerful. A single drop of water appears harmless. Yet millions of drops can carve through stone. The same is true of financial discipline. Small decisions repeated consistently create extraordinary outcomes. The Stoics also practiced something called voluntary discomfort. Occasionally they would live below their means. Eat simple meals. Wear simple clothing. Sleep in modest conditions. Not because they were poor, but because they wanted to prove something to themselves. They wanted to know they could survive without luxury. They wanted freedom from fear. Because when you know you can live with less, you stop fearing loss. And when you stop fearing loss, people lose their power over you. Imagine the confidence that creates. Imagine walking through life knowing that your peace does not depend on possessions. That your happiness does not depend on status. That your identity does not depend on wealth. That is real power. That is financial freedom at its deepest level. But even money is not the final battle. Because a person can control their mouth. A person can control their mood. A person can even control their money. Yet still live a defeated life. Why? Because there is one kingdom greater than all the others. One force directing every decision. One battlefield that determines victory or defeat before any action is taken. The battlefield of the mind. And in the next part, we enter the most important lesson of all. The lesson that separates ordinary people from extraordinary ones. The lesson that can transform every area of your life. The mastery of your mind. This is where everything comes together. Because your mouth follows your thoughts. Your mood follows your interpretations. Your money follows your decisions. And your decisions follow your mind. If the mind is weak, everything else eventually collapses. If the mind is strong, everything else becomes easier to control. The Stoics understood that life is not won on the outside. It is won on the inside. Long before victory becomes visible to the world, it has already happened within the mind. And long before failure appears in reality, it often begins as a thought that was left unchecked. A thought becomes a belief. A belief becomes a habit. A habit becomes a destiny. That is why mental mastery is the greatest form of self-discipline. There is an old story about two wolves. A grandfather sat beside his grandson watching the sunset. The boy asked him why some people seem calm and strong while others constantly struggle. The old man smiled. There are two wolves fighting inside every person. The boy listened carefully. One wolf is fear, anger, jealousy, laziness, doubt, and resentment. The other wolf is courage, discipline, wisdom, patience, gratitude, and strength. The boy thought for a moment. Which wolf wins? The grandfather answered quietly. The one you feed. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you are feeding one of those wolves. Every thought matters. Every habit matters. Every choice matters. Because the mind is always growing in the direction you train it. Most people spend years feeding fear. They replay mistakes. They relive failures. They imagine disasters. They worry about things that never happen. And slowly, they become prisoners of their own thoughts. The Stoics refused to live this way. They understood a truth that remains powerful thousands of years later. You do not control every event. But you control how you respond to every event. And that response changes everything. Imagine standing in front of a mountain. One person sees an obstacle. Another sees an opportunity. One sees suffering. Another sees growth. The mountain is the same. The difference exists only in the mind. That difference changes the outcome. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, betrayal, disease, political conflict, and enormous responsibility. Yet he repeatedly reminded himself of one simple principle. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Think about that for a moment. How much of your stress comes from trying to control things beyond your control? How much anxiety comes from demanding certainty about an uncertain future? How much energy is wasted fighting reality instead of accepting it? The Stoics teach us to focus on what belongs to us. Our actions. Our character. Our effort. Our mindset. Everything else is secondary. This mindset creates an incredible sense of freedom. Because when you stop fighting what you cannot control, you gain more energy for what you can. There was once a young archer who dreamed of becoming the best in his kingdom. Every day he trained. Every day he practiced. Every day he improved. Yet during competitions he became nervous. His hands trembled. His confidence disappeared. His performance suffered. Frustrated, he sought advice from an old master. The master asked him a question. What are you trying to control? The young archer answered. The victory. The master shook his head. You control the shot. The outcome belongs to life. Those words changed everything. The archer stopped obsessing over results. He focused entirely on preparation. Entirely on effort. Entirely on execution. And ironically, once he stopped chasing victory, victory arrived. This lesson applies to every area of life. You cannot control who likes you. You cannot control who criticizes you. You cannot control every opportunity. You cannot control every outcome. But you can control your preparation. You can control your effort. You can control your attitude. You can control your discipline. And those things are enough. In fact, they are more than enough. Because the strongest people in the world are not those who control circumstances. They are those who remain steady regardless of circumstances. There is another enemy of mental mastery. It is invisible. It hides inside comfort. Its name is distraction. Never before in human history have so many people been distracted by so many things. Endless notifications. Endless entertainment. Endless scrolling. Endless noise. Many people cannot sit alone with their thoughts for 5 minutes. The mind becomes restless. The attention becomes fragmented. The discipline becomes weak. And without realizing it, they surrender control of their lives. The Stoics would view this as one of the greatest dangers of all. Because where attention goes, life follows. If your attention belongs to distractions, your future will. Every day you are building something. Either a stronger mind. Or a weaker one. The choice happens in small moments. The moment you choose reading over mindless scrolling. The moment you choose discipline over comfort. The moment you choose patience over anger. The moment you choose action over excuses. These moments seem insignificant. But they shape destiny. A river does not carve a canyon in a single day. It does so through consistent pressure over time. Mental strength works the same way. One disciplined choice. Then another. Then another. Until eventually the person staring back at you in the mirror becomes someone entirely different. Someone stronger. Someone wiser. Someone calmer. Someone more dangerous to mediocrity. And perhaps that is the greatest reward of all. Not wealth. not status, not recognition, but becoming the kind of person who can handle whatever life places in front of them. The kind of person who remains steady when others panic, focused when others quit, disciplined when others make excuses, calm when others lose control. That is true mastery. That is Stoicism. And that is what happens when you learn to control your mouth, your mood, your money, and your mind. But before this journey ends, there is one final lesson. A lesson that ties everything together. A lesson that may completely change the way you view your life from this day forward. Because the greatest battle was never against the world. The greatest battle was always against yourself. Not the version of yourself that appears in photographs. Not the version of yourself that smiles in public. But the hidden version. The one nobody sees. The one that whispers excuses when discipline is required. The one that seeks comfort when growth demands sacrifice. The one that chooses convenience over purpose. Every person carries two identities. The person they are today, and the person they could become. The distance between those two identities is determined by discipline. Nothing more. Nothing less. At the beginning of this journey, we spoke about 4 pillars. Your mouth, your mood, your money, and your mind. At first, they seemed like separate battles. But now you can see they are connected. When you control your mouth, you earn respect. When you control your mood, you gain stability. When you control your money, you create freedom. When you control your mind, you unlock your potential. Together, they form a foundation that cannot easily be shaken by life. Because life will test you. That is guaranteed. There will be days when everything goes wrong. Days when people misunderstand you. Days when opportunities disappear. Days when your efforts seem unnoticed. Days when you question whether the struggle is worth it. Those days come for everyone. Even the strongest. Even the wisest. Even the most successful. The difference is not whether challenges arrive. The difference is how you respond when they do. There is a story about an old oak tree that stood at the edge of a valley. For hundreds of years, storms attacked it. Violent winds. Heavy rain. Blistering heat. Freezing winters. Nearby, smaller plants often wondered how the old oak remained standing. One day, a young sapling asked the oak its secret. The old tree replied, "I stopped fighting every storm." The sapling looked confused. The oak continued, "I learned when to stand firm and when to bend." That wisdom kept it alive for centuries. The Stoics understood this principle deeply. Mental strength is not stubbornness. It is adaptability. It is learning to accept reality without surrendering your values. It is learning to remain calm without becoming passive. It is learning to endure hardship without becoming bitter. The strongest person is not the one who never falls. The strongest person is the one who always rises. Again. And again. And again. History remembers these people. Not because they avoided difficulty, but because difficulty revealed their character. Think about every great person you admire. Every leader. Every inventor. Every athlete. Every thinker. Their greatness was not created during easy times. It was revealed during difficult times. Pressure exposed what was already inside them. And that same opportunity exists for you. Every challenge is asking a question. Who are you becoming? Every setback is asking a question. Will you quit or continue? Every disappointment is asking a question. Will you complain or grow? Every obstacle is asking a question. Will you retreat or rise? Your answers shape your future. Not once. Not occasionally. Every single day. Because life is not built in giant moments. Life is built in ordinary moments repeated consistently. A disciplined morning. A controlled response. A wise financial decision. A focused hour of work. A refusal to give up. These small actions appear insignificant. Yet over years, they create extraordinary lives. Imagine 2 people standing in the same place today. 5 years from now, their lives could be completely different. Not because of luck. Not because of talent. but because one person mastered themselves while the other did not. One chose discipline. One chose comfort. One chose growth. One chose excuses. The gap begins small. Then it becomes impossible to ignore. This is why Stoicism remains powerful after thousands of years. Human nature has not changed. People still struggle with anger. Still struggle with fear. Still struggle with desire. Still struggle with distraction. And the solution remains the same. Master yourself. Because no amount of external success can compensate for internal weakness. And no amount of external difficulty can defeat genuine inner strength. Years from now, nobody will remember every challenge you faced. Nobody will remember every obstacle. Nobody will remember every setback. But you will remember the person those challenges transformed you into. And that person is being built right now. In this moment. With every decision. With every habit. With every action. So as this video comes to an end, I want you to remember something. You are stronger than your impulses. You are greater than your fears. You are bigger than your excuses. You are capable of more discipline than you realize. More resilience than you imagine. More growth than you currently believe. The Stoics were never trying to create perfect people. They were trying to create stronger people. People who could face reality without fear. People who could endure hardship without complaint. People who could pursue excellence without becoming arrogant. People who could remain calm while the world around them lost control. That is the path. That is the challenge. And that is the opportunity standing before you today. If this message inspired you, if it challenged you, and if it helped you see life from a new perspective, then subscribe to Focus and Conquer. Join a community of people committed to self-mastery, discipline, mental toughness, and personal growth. Because every week, we explore timeless wisdom that helps you conquer your weaknesses, strengthen your character, and build a life of purpose. And remember this. Control your mouth, and you control your reputation. Control your mood, and you control your actions. Control your money, and you control your freedom. Control your mind, and you control your destiny. The world becomes easier to conquer when you first conquer yourself. Stay disciplined. Stay focused. And never stop becoming the person you were meant to be. Until next time, focus, conquer, and rise above the ordinary.